Article 1165. When what is to be delivered is a determinate thing, the creditor, in addition to the right granted to him by Article 1170, may compel the debtor to make the delivery. If the thing is indeterminate or generic, he may ask that the obligation to be complied with at the expense of debtor. If the obligor delays, or has promised to deliver the same thing to two or more persons who do not have the same interest, he shall be responsible for any fortuitous event until he has effected the delivery. The first thing I'm going to discuss is the remedies of the creditor when the debtor fails to perform an obligation to give or real obligation. There are two topics to be discussed here. First is the obligation to deliver a determinate thing. Second is the obligation to deliver a generic thing. I already discussed the difference between determinate and generic thing in my previous video. I will place the link on the description box. If the debtor fails to fulfill his obligation to deliver a determinate thing, the creditor has the right to compel the debtor to make the delivery. In compelling the debtor to make the delivery, the creditor has to institute a court action against the debtor. Also, the creditor can demand the payment of damages from the debtor. If the creditor obtains judgment in his favor, he can ask the court to order the debtor to make the delivery and pay damages. Next is the obligation to deliver a generic thing. Here, the creditor has the right to ask that the obligation be complied with at the expense of the debtor and to demand the payment of damages from the debtor. Here is an example for the obligation to deliver a determinate thing. Dave is obliged to deliver a specific car to Cyril on July 2, 2010. If Dave fails to deliver the car on due date, Cyril has the right to compel Dave to make the delivery and to pay damages. Cyril has the right to compel Dave to make the delivery because the thing is in Dave's possession and cannot be substituted by another. Here is the example for obligation to deliver a generic thing. John is obliged to deliver 10 sacks of rice to Anne on July 2, 2010. If Dave fails to deliver 10 sacks of rice to Annie on due date, Anne can get 10 sacks of rice from Anna Thurperson at John's expense and demand damages from John. Anne can get 10 sacks of rice from another person because they can be substituted with another of the same kind. Next, we are going to talk about loss due to fortuitous event of the determinate thing. As a rule, the loss of the thing due by reason of fortuitous event extinguishes the debtor's obligation based in Article 1174. However, he shall be liable in the following cases. First is if he is guilty of delay, and second, if he promised to deliver the same thing to two or more persons who do not have the same interest. To further understand, here is an example. Ella is obliged to deliver a specific horse to Karen on July 3, 2010. On due date, Karen demanded the delivery of the horse, but Ella failed to comply. On July 7, 2010, the horse was struck and killed by lightning while still in Ella's possession. Since Ella was in default, she shall be liable for damages to Karen, although the cause of the loss was a fortuitous event. Here is another example for letter B. If he promised to deliver the same thing to two or more persons who do not have the same interest. On July 4, 2010, Danny obliged himself to deliver a specific piano to Charlie on August 3, 2010. 2 days later, however, Danny also promised to deliver the same piano to Emma on September 3, 2010. On July 25, 2010, the piano was lost in a fire through no fault of Danny. In this case, Danny shall be liable for damages to both Charlie and Emma, even though the loss of the piano was not his fault, because the piano is still in his possession. That would be all for Article 1165. Like, share, and subscribe.